I want to show you how you can create spontaneous solos where you're able to just play. I mean, the ideas just flow. But in order to do that, you need a framework. You need two things. First, you need a way of burning fretboard maps into your memory. And I'm going to show you a really fast way to do that, to learn your fretboard. The second thing you need is a way to interconnect those maps. So you can look down at your fretboard and see one giant connected landscape rather than a bunch of disjointed, scattered pieces, fingerings, and that kind of thing you're trying to string together to form your solos. Most of the learn how to solo guitar lessons out there teach you to do two things. First of all, they teach you a fingering pattern, and then they say move that pattern up down the fretboard depending on what key you're playing in. Let's say it's the blues and you're learning a blues pattern. They'll show you the pattern and they'll say identify the pattern where you start by what the note is on the sixth string. And so if it's blues in A, you start on the A note of the sixth string. If it's blues in C, you start on the C note of the sixth string. And that's really not a bad way to get started, because you can put together all kinds of little riffs and stuff from the same fingering pattern. So at first, it feels like real freedom. I mean, you're able to do this lick and that lick, and then you can play in any key because you just have to learn what the notes are on the sixth string. So this freedom kind of lasts a little while, but it's only up until you hit a wall.
You have hit a wall.
And you're stuck in a rut.
You are stuck in a rut.
And you're really not learning the fretboard. Most of the videos I've seen out there, they're either dry theory marathons.
Anyone?
There's some kind of clickbait thing like, just learn this one secret pattern. It's all you'll ever need.
I'm going to teach you music theory in 10 minutes.
But that leaves you stuck in no man's land if you really want to grow and learn the fretboard for real. So how do you learn true improvisation? You got to learn your fretboard, but I'm going to show you a process that's going to help you come up with fresh new ideas while you're learning your fretboard and getting better at improvising. I've got a little groove going in the background, and every note you hear, both on the guitar and the bass, came from the G major scale. There's a link, by the way, down in the description where you can get all the background tracks I use in this video. I have ScaleMate open at guitarcreative.com, and we're going to look down here. We've got the notes of the G major scale. And hey, if looking at this fretboard diagram kind of gives you a brain cramp, feels a little overwhelming, it's okay. That's a natural response. But I'm about to show you how to break this down so that instead of feeling overwhelmed by it, it'll all just become crystal clear to you. And yeah, it may take a little time for you to get this, but once you do, it's going to be so worth it. And my approach has you improvising while you're learning your fretboard, and it's just chock full of aha moments. Right now, I want to give you a little taste of fretboard freedom. I'm going to show you how to find some fresh, unusual chords that are hiding right in the major scale. Then we're going to improvise a solo over those chords. And then I'm going to show you two neuroscience-based methods you can start using right away to make this process go even faster. So let's talk about the chords I used. I started with these three notes. And then for the most part, I just moved those notes up the scale to form each new chord. And when I got past the 12th fret, I did kind of mix it up a little bit, but you can see that in this illustration. In case you didn't know, it takes 3 or more different notes to form a chord. And that could be any 3 notes. But in this exercise, all we're doing is really restricting ourselves to notes from the G major scale. So find all kinds of combinations. Go crazy with this. Okay, it's improv time. It's time to bring this fretboard map and my noggin down to life on my fretboard. I don't claim to be the greatest guitar player, but I do know where all of the notes of the G major scale are on my entire fretboard. I want you to see the freedom that you'll have when you learn where all those notes are too. I want to talk to you about two techniques that are based on neuroscience that are going to speed up your process of learning the fretboard. The first one is chunking, and the second one is what's known as active recall. You use these two techniques, and you're going to learn way faster than you would otherwise. So let's take these one at a time. The technique of chunking, and as I told you, it's based on neuroscience. They found that you can take large amounts of information, like a big number or something, and break it into separate, more manageable chunks. That's where the name comes from. And it's easier to remember and faster. Like phone numbers, for an example, you have the area code, the exchange code, and the line number. That's 3 numbers plus 3 numbers plus 4 numbers. You can memorize a 10-digit number way faster if you break it down into 3 chunks. It's like that on the guitar, learning notes on a fretboard, except it's way more powerful on the guitar. And that's because you get to touch the note, you get to see the note, you get to hear the note, and you feel it, especially when you're playing. You want to start with 4 notes, and we're going to use the G major scale because that's what we've been using. We're already getting familiar with it, but we want to find certain notes and memorize them. So in this particular exercise, I'm going to start with some notes on the 5th and the 7th fret. This D note, this E, G, and A. And work on those until you've got to memorize. You should be able to put your finger down on a G, on an A, on a D, on an E, and mix them up. D, A, G, E, and get to the point to where you can call those out when you hit them, or before you ever put your finger down, you know what the note is. Once you reset stage, start a little background track and play along. Next step is to get another chunk of 4 notes and start with the top note of the previous chunk. So the top note was this A right here. That note. So we're going to start with it in the next position up. A, B, D, E. So do the same thing with this so that you've got all of those memorized playing along with the track. Then put them together. Then add a third chunk, starting with the top note of the second chunk, which again is here. And this one we're going to make a position change. So it's E, G, A, B. Once you get those 4 notes down, and you guessed it, put all 3 together.
and just work on it and work on it. Set your guitar down after having done that exercise. Pick your guitar back up and be able to call each of those notes. Now, you can't really understand how huge that can be if you've never really done this. You're going to be amazed at how quickly you're going to begin to learn your fretboard and start gaining that fretboard freedom.
Now, that's an example of connecting chunks by a common note, but you can do it any way you want to. Let's say you just want to learn all of the notes of the G major scale in the second position. You can follow the same chunking method. You start with 2 strings, learn those notes with the backing track so you can hear the unique character of each note played over chords in that key. Then learn the notes on the next 2 strings, then put those together. Then learn the next 2 strings and keep on until you've learned all the notes in that position. So as you improvise, you know exactly what note you're about to play at any moment. You're soloing with some purpose.
Let's now move on to active recall. Active recall is a memorization technique that's actually designed to strengthen your memory. It's all about testing yourself. You're forcing your brain to do the work, and that results in really faster and more automatic recall. So let's move on to the exercise. Start by picking a scale. I've chosen the E major scale. Now you're going to memorize a section of the fretboard. Look at the fretboard diagram and pick a position. I'm going to start with this 4th position. Start with the 6th and the 5th strings. Now say the names of the notes on those 2 strings in that position out loud as you write them down somewhere, either on a piece of paper or in digital form. And now look away, hide the fretboard diagram, and test yourself. Where is the G sharp? Where is the D sharp? You just keep asking yourself these questions. With each one, if you get it wrong, briefly check the fretboard diagram again, correct yourself, look away, and try again. Now you keep testing yourself. When you can get all of them right, take a break. Then come back and quiz yourself again on those same notes. When you've learned those notes, move then to the next 2 strings. That would be the 4th and the 3rd strings. And continue that until you can recall all of the notes in that position for that scale. Every time you force your brain to recall a note, instead of having to look to see what the note is, you're actually strengthening your memory even more. Remember, mistakes really help you learn faster because your brain's focusing on what it got wrong, which then results in, when you get it right, the neural connections becoming even stronger. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've gotten a lot out of it. The backing tracks are in the description below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.